Rajeev Kumar, CEO of Mystifly. Thanks ever so much, as always, for joining us. You've joined us many times after you've presented at the Phocuswright Conference. Obviously, it was a bit different this year, and your actual pitch at the launch event was probably about a month ago now. But we wanted to let the dust settle a little bit and see where we were a couple of weeks on.
Thanks for inviting as well, Kevin.
No bother at all. No bother, Rajeev. So, first of all, I mean, you've talked a lot in your presentation about the complexity of air travel and the tools that you've been developing to I guess, help alleviate some of that complexity. What I'm interested in is the degree of complexity that there is, and how difficult do you think it is for people to understand, people being intermediaries? Or do you think the complexity is easily solved by technology that you and others create?
Right. So traditionally, if you really look at travel intermediaries and organizations that sell air travel in particular, there's a lot of skills and nuances and expertise that needs to be built to sell this product, right? I mean, when it comes to flight selling, it's not a product that could be just sold out of the box by creating a team overnight. There's a lot of those nuances and preparations that needs to be put in place, starting from airline contracts, from access, a way to kind of access the inventory. The tools which are available to access that inventory means that there's a lot of training and learning that one needs to go through to even operate some of those platforms that exist. And if you were to translate this into the online travel world, what has happened in the way technology has been built in the past is all of those complexities and nuances were kept the way it was, and a facade was built over it so that it could be tech enabled. So what again it means is, even to run an online travel business, you need very similar kind of expertise and knowledge and know-how and nuances, learning, understanding for you to sell air as a product, which possibly is not the case for in today's internet e-commerce world, that if you were to sell a category of product on your platform, now you want to add a new category of product, to kind of complement what you were selling. It doesn't need you to kind of go into learn the nuances. You just add another product, right? Another category, and then it starts selling into the same consumers. But that's not the case when it comes to flights or air in particular. There's a lot of that background expertise and talent and people and nuances that needs to be built. And that, I think, prohibits a lot of businesses wanting to enter the space of selling travel, right? Because it's very restrictive and restricted in some sense. That's it's not for everybody to kind of get going. So that's the complexity. And like I said, technology traditionally has been built by just keeping those manual industry processes exactly the same way it was, and just creating layers of technology on top of it. So search in the traditional world is still very complex and complicated in the way it operates. So for us, when we say simplifying this whole model, take out the industry nuances, like how you would have when you said when a regular search as a activity happens. There is no, when you're integrating into a Mystifly platform, you don't really need to know the nuances that you got to take care of 20 things to do a search, right? I mean, search is a simple search. Order management or a booking is a very simple process. So the way we build technology is to kind of enable developers who may not really know anything with respect to travel technology, just creative technology mind, wanting to consume an API that can deliver a booking flow or a post-booking flow and so on. That, I think, becomes a significant difference in the way we are creating technology versus the traditional travel tech that's available.
The overall ecosystem, you said in your presentation in November, and now, it is, the ecosystem is complex. We have standards and initiatives such as One Order and all those kind of things that are meant to simplify that process, but they are going to run parallel to the legacy things that have made it complex in the first place. So we're in this kind of dual ecosystem now,
Right. Right.
which doesn't seem to have a finish line really. That could,
Right.
those two ecosystems could actually run side by side for quite some considerable time, right?
Right, right. So absolutely right, Kevin. I think that becomes the challenge as well to kind of adopt into the new world, because there's a lot of stuff that's still legacy and still is yet to catch up with the new thoughts and new models and new way of potentially doing, or working with airlines. So what we've been in that journey where we're trying to bridge that old to the new, right? So when you work with our API, for example, it aggregates and normalizes the old world into a new standard. So it's a NDC, compliant or one order compliant in that sense, API structure that ensures that be it the legacy content or the new content or a low cost content, irrespective of whatever is the
Yep.
backend content that comes in, it kind of gets normalized in a manner that it's easy to adopt, easy to implement, and ensures that at least to whatever extent possible, the experience that it could deliver to the end consumer is very uniform on a comparison to, certain part of the content being possibly new age, in the way one is trying to perceive, while there is a lot of content that still is struggling to kind of find, a foot when it comes to internet e-commerce selling.
What do you think is the biggest challenge? Not not the intermediary side of this now. What do you think is the biggest challenge from the airline side? Is it just, you often hear about from distribution executives, it's all about a mindset. It's not about technology. It's just about getting your head into a different space as a business. Do you agree with that? Or do you think there is something fundamentally more that is needed by airlines to push them into, the paradigm shift, which is another phrase that gets used very often?
Yeah, yeah. No, I think again the whole structure in which the industry has been operating, right? I think is very relevant to what possibly was this scenario maybe 30 years back when a traveler needed to walk into a high street agency to buy a ticket, right? I mean, so technology that was created was to bring efficiency there, right? And for airlines, the way they operated again was they operated at a station level, where a station was responsible to drive distribution or selling, to fill in seats and so on, right? So I think in the way the structure has existed, has operated, more or less it has addressed the needs of certain silos, because that's how, that is what was relevant maybe 30 years back, right? Considering the fact that a consumer walked into an agency or to an airline office to buy a ticket, tech was created to solve that particular problem and bring efficiency there, right? And then when a traveler paid money into that high street office or to an agency, to an airline in that city from where the airline operated, there was efficiency that was created to kind of solve how payments are repatriated into the airline headquarters. So there was a certain focus there, and the reality was each of these sides of businesses operated in silos, solving a problem and tried building great efficiency in solving that. And over a period of time, irrespective of whatever structural changes happened, technology changes happened, airlines continue to drive a very similar old age model in terms of how they function. I think that mindset is what stops that adoption or a shift from how airlines operate to how they should be operating. And when new airlines came in, come to think of it, when airlines that got created in the post-internet world, they didn't really have any of these challenges, and which is why
Right.
they looked at the model very differently from how the traditional carriers operated, right? So, so I think as how much it's the current mindset. I think there has been a lot of legacy process, structures that have been created, and within the airline businesses, there are different functions that are trying to solve for these efficiencies, very well realizing or not realizing that what they're trying to solve is the efficiency within the inefficiencies, right? Rather than kind of trying to look at it from a very holistic manner.
You've always struck me, Rajiv, as someone who's very positive, who's always kind of looking to the future and about the way things, hopefully how things could evolve. I mean, we've not been in, the best state as an industry during 2020 to kind of push forward evolution and things like that. I mean, where do you sit finally on the industry's ability to both recover, but also push the changes in distribution that many believe are needed in airline distribution for sure?
Right. So I think every crisis creates an opportunity, and it's not just me saying. I'm sure everybody says that, right? Crisis creates an opportunity, and the reality is, as how much it's pushed us back, it's pushed everybody back, right? I mean, from the largest of businesses to airlines have been pushed back, which means that it's a great opportunity to really start or restart from the scratch. Yeah. And I think a crisis like this gives an opportunity to kind of rewrite or remodel some of those old beliefs and structures that everybody thought is the way to kind of do things, right? And hence, I'm very positive, and even more positive than what we were as a company, or I was as an individual, let's say 10, 12 months back, that the time is now and the opportunity is now to kind of see those changes as the industry evolves. And with many of the conversations and pilots and so on that we are sitting with and that we are executing, we're already seeing that positive change. And I'm not saying that all of this will automatically in no time kind of change. No, I mean, the roots are quite deep in many of the businesses. So to kind of take that out takes a little bit of a challenge. And nor are we questioning the way some of this business has been happening. All we're saying is there's a different way or a new way to do things, while the rest continues and exists in the way it could. Let's kind of try creating an alternative path, right? And if we are successful in doing it, great, there will be some transformation. If not, we will continue to work towards creating that world which we think is more ideal than what it is today.
Okay. Just a final note, really. I thought your use of Rio to Rome for your screenshot in the pitch presentation was actually quite mildly amusing. So thanks ever so much for putting that in. All the best for, so you're laughing now. All the best for 2021, Rajiv. So that was Rajeev Kumar, CEO of Mystifly. Wish you all the best. Thanks ever so much.
Thank you so much, Kevin, for having me. Thank you.